I'm Phyllis Alexander, the Executive Director of the Kentucky Commission on Women, and I'll be your Mistress of Ceremonies this evening, and we are so glad you're here. And we are ready to start our program, and I will say that the governor will be joining us in just a few minutes, so when he gets here, he'll come in. But I would like to ask Reverend Gerald Shepard to give the invocation this evening. He'll be followed by our banquet chairperson, Phyllis Florman, who's going to extend to us greetings. So I'd like, Jerry, if you would please come up.
Let us pray. O gracious God, giver of all good gifts and of all life's joys, we gather this evening to recognize the lives of ones who have been your servants in Kentucky. We especially are thankful for Thelma Stovall in her stewardship of gifts and opportunities that you have given to her, for she has used them to serve the people of this Commonwealth. Through the lives of all the nominees, we see that life's purpose is to serve our sisters and brothers, not as a means to our glorification or advancement, but out of genuine concern for the welfare of others. Fill us all with a spirit of servanthood that is grounded in love and integrity. Light the fire of passion within us for those who suffer deprivation and injustice. Use us in your activity of life-giving, that every person might have the opportunities for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For this food with which we partake this evening, we give you thanks. May its nourishment strengthen us in body as your Spirit strengthens us in soul for your service. In the name of Jesus the Christ we pray. Amen.
How sweet it is to be part of a celebration of women who have shown leadership and courage, power and influence, uniqueness and vision. Vision, yes, because everything starts with a dream or with a vision. Whether it's the sensitivity of a Georgia O'Keeffe painting, the words from The Color Purple by Alice Walker, a play by Sally Bingham, the poetry of Maya Angelou, the passion of an aria that's sung by a Jesse Norman or a Beverly Sills, the political platform of a Georgia Powers or a Martha Lane Collins, or the opinion of a Judge Olga Pierce or a Judy West or a Judge Rankin. But it takes more than the vision. It takes what every woman here possesses and embodies: dedication, sacrifice, trade-offs, planning, intelligence, hard work. Each woman here tonight represents the new women of Kentucky. We've looked within ourselves and we discovered our powers to be. Our powers to be not only mothers and wives and friends, teachers, caregivers, and businesswomen, but to be the visionaries, the style makers, the risk takers, the role models, and the advocates. Tonight, we celebrate your power and your influence. The idea for this celebration came about when the Kentucky Commission on Women met to plan for 1991. The focus of the award was obvious: bring to the forefront women who have opened doors for other women, women who have made a difference, women who've made it possible for other women to excel. And to identify these women, the Commission asked the women's organizations around the state to honor one of their own. We received the names of more than 50 women who give us cause for celebration. And it seemed natural, too, to establish an award in the name of Thelma Stovall because of her countless contributions on behalf of Kentucky women. And what effective advocates you all have been. And the Kentucky Commission on Women has accepted the role of advocating, too. We've worked hard for changes in the laws to better protect women and their families, for adequate health care, for equal economic opportunities, for improved education, for quality child care. And we continue to educate Kentuckians about women's problems, concerns, rights, and needs. And the Kentucky Commission on Women would like to take this opportunity to thank Governor Wilkinson for his encouragement and his support. He's listened to our ideas, he has responded to our requests, and he's adopted our recommendations. Working with the governor's office has been positive and gratifying. But then the Kentucky Commission on Women has a long tradition of working with each administration because we're the liaison between the governor's office and the many women's organizations around the Commonwealth. And it's on behalf of the 21 commissioners, our outstanding executive director, Phyllis Alexander, and her outstanding staff, that we wish to thank you for being here to pay tribute to Thelma Stovall, to celebrate Kentucky's incredible women, and to show our commitment to one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. I would like to introduce the head table, and then we'll have our song, and then continue with dinner. But I would like to start with my far left, and this is Reverend Jerry Shepard. I've introduced him. He is the pastor of South Elkhorn Christian Church in Lexington. Next is Miss Nell Horlander, and she is a commissioner with the Kentucky Commission on Women, and she's here tonight to pay tribute to Thelma Stovall. Miss Dorothy Jones, and she is the president of the National Association for the Commissions for Women. So we are so glad, out of Detroit, Michigan, and she is also with the UAW International in Detroit. So we're very, very happy she's here. And Phyllis Florman is also a commission member. She is our vice president, and she has been chair of this banquet. On my far right is Tanya Triplett. She is our soloist for this evening, now residing in Dayton, Ohio. Is that correct? Louisville, excuse me, just I think coming from Dayton. And then Dr. Rankin, who is the spouse of our speaker this evening, and the next person is Judge Clarice Mitchell Rankin. She is here from Houston, Texas. She is a United States immigration judge, and she will talk to us this evening, and then the governor will be here, and I'm Phyllis Alexander. So Tanya, if you'll come up and sing for us.
First of all, let me start by saying good evening to everyone. I'd like to give honor and glory to my Heavenly Father for allowing me the opportunity to come and share with you the gift that He has blessed me with. To Ms. Alexander and the Women's Commission and Mrs. Wolf and President Wolf and my Kentucky State family. It is truly an honor for me to be here. And even though I'm not in Frankfurt anymore, I'm just down the road. And I miss you all very much. The first selection I'd like to sing for you this evening is entitled Wind Beneath My Wings. It must have been cold there in my shadow. You never had sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine. You always walked a few steps behind, and I was the one with all the glory. And you are the one with all the strength. Only a face without a name. But I never once heard you complain. Oh, did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I like to be. But I can fly higher than any eagle. You are the wind beneath my you're my hero, and everything I like to be. But I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. Fly, fly, fly. You are the wind beneath my wings.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Please enjoy your dinner, and you'll find on your cards, on your table, small cards, and those are to be signed, if you would please, and we will send them to Thelma Stovall because she isn't here with us this evening. And let me back up a little while you go ahead and start. I did want to give you some information about Tanya, and she's a dynamite singer, and she was featured as a soloist with the Dayton Philharmonic Orchestra in February. She performed a concert piece entitled Gospel Fuse. The score was originally written for Cissy Houston, mother of Whitney Houston, and she will be repeating that in September of this year in Indianapolis with the Philharmonic there. She's a member of the Keith Hunter and Witness for Christ Choir in Louisville, and they'll be doing some recording later this year. So thank you. Tanya Triplett is going to sing for us again, so as you take your seats, she will be coming to the mic to delight us with song.
The race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but to those that endureth unto the end. At Kentucky State University, in the Bradford Hall building, there is a sign. I don't know if it's still there or not, but as you enter, it says perseverance is the key to success. I kept this motto with me throughout my years at Kentucky State University and up until this present day. And the next selection I'm going to sing for you is entitled, I Will Survive. When this song was written, it was basically talking about the relationship between a husband and wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, and things were not working. But you can also put this to any type of situation in your life. Perseverance is the key, survival, seeing through and past whatever your situations may be. And I'd like to share this with you today. I was all alone. I was petrified to think that I would have to live my life without you by my side. I've spent so many nights feeling sorry for myself. I used to cry. Now I hold my head up high. It took all the strength I had not to fall apart. Just trying to mend the pieces of my broken heart. And so you felt like walking in, just expecting me to be free. Now I'm saving all my love for someone who's loving me. Now go on, go. Walk out the door. Don't turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome here anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me with your lies. Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and die? Oh, no, not I. I will survive. And as long as I know how to love, ooh, I know I'll get by. 'Cause I've got all my life to live. And I've got all this love to give. I will survive. I will survive. I will survive. And you see me, somebody new. I'm not that same old little girl still in love with you. It took all the strength I've had not to fall apart, just trying to mend the pieces of my broken heart. Oh, go now, go, walk out the door. Don't turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome here anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me with your lies? Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and die? Oh, no, not I. I will survive. And as long as I know how to love, ooh, I'll make it. Oh, yes, I will, 'cause I've got all my life to live. And I've got all this love to give. I will survive. I will survive. I will survive.
Thank you again, Tanya. That was wonderful. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker this evening. And yesterday I had the pleasure of meeting her for the first time. In recent months, we've talked on the telephone and exchanged correspondence, and I feel like I've known her a long while. She's warm, personable, knowledgeable, diplomatic, and fun. When we first began seeking a speaker, we were looking for a woman who had opened doors for other women, made a significant contribution, given of herself to benefit women, or pioneered in her field. I was extremely impressed with our speaker's credentials. Judge Rankin has all of the qualities we were looking for. After raising 4 children, she entered Temple University in her native Philadelphia and received her bachelor's degree in political science. She then went to Temple Law School and earned her Juris Doctorate. She's been an attorney advisor with the United States International Trade Commission in Washington, D.C., where she was responsible for reviewing petitions from countries requesting relief from import restrictions. She was a senior legislative analyst with the District of Columbia Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, which regulates businesses, building and land use, housing, the environmental industry, and professional and occupational licenses. Judge Rankin has served as an administrative law judge in the District of Columbia Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs. As judge, she held hearings of alleged violations under the Consumer Protection Procedure Act and made decisions on penalties. Just over 1 year ago, she accepted an appointment as judge of the United States Immigration Court in Houston, Texas. As immigration judge, she presides over hearings on deportation, exclusion, adjustment of status, bond reduction, and other immigration matters. She is the only black female immigration judge in the United States. She's licensed to practice before the Supreme Court of the United States, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the United States Court of International Trade, and the United States Court of Custom and Patent Appeals, among others. She's also a member of the Pennsylvania and District of Columbia Bar Associations. Her memberships include the American Association of Immigration Judges, the Congressional Foreign Affairs Brain Trust, the Washington Foreign Law Society, the Coalition of 100 Black Women, for which she is political advisor, the National Association of Minority Political Women, the Duke University Parents Club, the Association of Foreign Service, and Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She is a wife, married to Dr. Guy Rankin, a mother, civic leader, professor, lecturer, and an accomplished attorney. Please welcome a woman who has truly made significant contributions for women, the Honorable Clarice Mitchell Rankin, Judge of the United States Immigration Court, Houston, Texas.
Thank you. I'd like to say good evening to everyone, with special greetings extended to those seated at the head table, Governor Wilkinson and Dottie Jones, the President of the National Association on Commissions for Women, an honored guest. This is my first trip to Kentucky, and I must say that the past 2 days have been such a whirlwind of excitement that a day at the Kentucky Derby would have to pale by comparison. The welcome that has been given to my husband and myself has been wonderful, and we want to thank you. Thank you. I am honored that the Commission chose me to share this stellar occasion with you, a salute to Kentucky Women of the Year. For these women are the very essence of my talk to you tonight. I'm going to speak to you about a woman's place in the 21st century. Before going into my speech, I want to take a look at some of the images in which women are seen today. First, we will take a look at a television commercial. Second, we'll take a look at the roles that women play every day. And finally, we're going to look at the different roles that women will have in the future. Now, just for a moment, I'm going to take the privilege of digressing and sharing some of my thoughts as I prepared for this evening, as soon as I knew that I would be speaking about a woman's place. Every television commercial and every headline that mentioned a woman's place jumped out at me like flashing neon signs. But of the many, there was one that was irresistible. And I would like to share it with you just to set the tone. First, I would like you to picture a woman smashingly dressed, businesswoman who boastfully sings, "I can bring home the bacon. I can stir it up in a pan. And I can never let you forget that you're a man because I am a woman." In other words, this woman is a provider. She is a homemaker. She's a femme fatale, all rolled into one. I love that commercial, and I love it because that character is the epitome of today's woman. She fills many, many different roles. Now I'm going to get back on track. One of the most successful box office productions of the day was the motion picture entitled Back to the Future. Well, tonight I am going to take you back to the future. First, let me take a look into my crystal ball. My crystal ball shows me the future. In that crystal ball, I see a woman performing many dual tasks, such as applying furniture polish or applying principles of law, speaking to the school assembly or speaking to the state assembly, buying groceries or buying stocks and bonds, composing a letter or composing a symphony, fixing a broken toy or fixing a broken bone, mending socks or mending fences, nursing a baby or nursing the sick, touching a button or touching a heart. Now we are going to look at how women's roles have changed since our country first began. I want you to climb aboard our time capsule, and we're going to travel back in time through the arduous struggle for women's rights. Then we will return to this period and look at the current issues. And finally, we will take a trip in a spaceship to the 21st century. This will be the height of our trip. We will take a look at the future. If you will just relax for a few moments. As the world turns, I will be your guiding light as we begin our search for tomorrow. Now we're going to look back to what it was like to be a woman almost 100 years ago. Our first time capsule takes us to a period just prior to the 20th century, when unmarried women had many of the rights under common law as men. However, women lost those rights forever in the bonds of matrimony. Yes, this was a period when women were considered to be the property of their husbands. During that period, a woman's place was to be seen and not heard. Married women could not own property, they could not sit on juries, they could not hold public office, and to add insult to injuries, a woman could not vote. In some antebellum states, a husband could chastise his wife if she forgot her place by whipping her with a switch. A woman's place around that time was to marry, to raise children, and to obey her husband. Ironically, the abolitionist movement served as the catalyst for the feminist movement. When women attempted to assist in the abolitionist movement, they were relegated to the "you may be seen but not heard" category. In fact, when Angelina Granke stood up and spoke before a mixed audience, and when I say mixed, I mean both men and women, in New England, on the evils of slavery, why it was thought to be a scandalous act. It was then that women realized that they had better forge a place for themselves before they fought for the rights of others. Subsequently, in 1848, under the leadership of Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, the first Women's Rights Convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York. At that time, the Declaration of Sentiments calling for equal rights for women was drafted. Women marched, women were arrested, women even went on hunger strikes in pursuit of their rights. In fact, in 1872, Susan B. Anthony was arrested for trying to vote. Can you believe that in spite of this kind of dedication, it took 133 years from the signing of the Constitution in 1787 to enactment of the 19th Amendment in 1920. And as you all know, the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. And to show you who had real vision around that time, did you know that Kentucky was among the first states to grant single women and widows the right to vote and the right to control property? Well, there were many, many stumbling blocks and disappointments for the proponents of the women's rights movement, and the next major focus for the movement was a push for the enactment of a women's rights bill, and that is the Equal Rights Amendment. Now, I want you to hold that thought as we climb aboard our second time capsule and move with the speed of a solar flare from the past into the land of current issues. And the Equal Rights Amendment is the perfect vehicle for this transition. The purpose of this amendment would have been to remove gender discrimination from our laws, from our institutions, and from our behavioral patterns. There was vigorous movement to promote ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. Armed with our right to vote, we gathered our ammunition and we planned our battle strategies in coffee clatches, in town meetings, in schoolrooms and boardrooms, both locally and nationally. The message was clear that this was more than a call for equal rights for equal pay. It was a movement for freedom. It was a movement for equality. And it was a movement for dignity for all women. On March the 22nd, 1972, Congress sent the Equal Rights Amendment to the states for ratification. Its operative language was, "Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States on account of sex." Congress initially established 7 years as the period within which ratification of the amendment by 3/4 of the states was ratified. However, by 1978, only 35 of the required 38 states had ratified. Subsequently, the proponents of the amendment, refusing to give up, sought and they achieved an extension of the ratification deadline to June 30th, 1982. But no further ratifications occurred during the extension, and the ratification effort failed. In 1983, another effort to have Congress resubmit the amendment to the states for ratification also failed. Where do we stand today on this issue? Where there's a will, there's a way. Since the ERA amendment had not been achieved, strategists sought to accomplish the desired impact through the 14th Amendment, also known as the Equal Protection Amendment. The 14th Amendment forbids any state to deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This means that gender-based classifications would be treated the same as racial or ethnic classification, as suspect, and therefore subject to strict scrutiny. However, there is still work to be done on the ERA, since the United States Supreme Court has not treated gender-based classification as suspect. There are many reasons that the ERA has not been ratified by the states. Some people believe that women already have equal rights. There are some who have some real concerns about the changes that the ERA might bring to our society. Remember, those who are asked to vote on the ERA are the very same people who have already witnessed many, many unbelievable changes. For example, these people were young during an era when closets were for clothes and not for coming out of. When cigarettes were for smoking and grass was for mowing. When Coke was a cold drink and pot was something that you cooked in. When rock music was grandma's lullaby and aides were helpers in the principal's office. And on that note, I want to say we must be very careful about the changes that we ask for, because you just might get them. Do you really want equality under the Military Selective Service Act? All right, I'm not expressing an opinion on this issue, but I am asking each and every one of you to give some thought to the long-range impact of the issues that you support. Please retain that thought as we continue traveling on to a most recent Supreme Court decision, which is supposed to be a victory for women. On the day that the court rendered its decision in the case of United Auto Workers versus Johnson's Controls Incorporated, a close friend of mine called me and asked me what I thought about the far-reaching effects of this decision, which held that under the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978, women cannot be excluded from any jobs that they are able to hold or perform because of their gender, pregnancy, or possible pregnancy. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this case, the company in question produces batteries, which expose its employees to lead. Because lead is so dangerous to children, it is already banned from paint and from toys and from housing interiors. Lead is particularly devastating to an unborn child because it can cross the placenta from the mother's body and damage the baby's brain and other vulnerable developing tissues. The company enacted a ban against women, unless those women could show that they were infertile, in battery-making areas where the level of lead is unsafe. This was done after 8 of the company's pregnant employees showed high levels of lead in their blood. The Supreme Court ruled against the company because the Johnson Controls policy is not sex neutral, because it does not apply to the reproductive capacity of the company's male employees in the same way that applies to that of the females. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that whether we like it or not, there are biological differences in the way environmental hazards affect male and female reproductive functions. And therefore, the pregnancy is not a sex-neutral condition. Be careful about what you ask for. You just might get it. Endangering unborn babies isn't really a victory, is it? While you're still thinking about that question, we're spinning off to our next and final destination, a woman's place in the 21st century. And I want to jump into this area with both feet by saying that I don't want women to make the mistake of feeling that we must choose to climb the corporate ladder or blast off in a discovery rocket in order to earn respect and dignity. I was concerned about the level of disrespect demonstrated to Barbara Bush recently by a few students at one of our elite women's colleges. And in case you're not familiar with that story, the young ladies that I am referring to expressed displeasure at having Mrs. Bush chosen to be the keynote speaker at their graduation because in their eyes she was not a good role model since she had chosen not to work outside the home. I believe that their actions are a sad commentary on the narrow-mindedness of our future leaders. Where are our values? What greater role model could have been chosen than a woman who has kept her family together in these times when the broken family is the norm? She is a loyal cornerstone, and she is a support system for the President of the United States. Don't they get it? This is a woman who can teach the importance of the family, of dedication, of altruism through example. A woman who chooses to dedicate herself to the profession of mother, family psychologist, family banker, interior decorator, advisor consultant to her husband is just as important in this society as the rocket scientist. She must not be disrespected. She is a national treasure, no matter what one's political affiliation might be. However, just to be sure that we aren't accused of failure to provide equal time, I could just as easily hold Rosalind Carter up as a role model for the partnership that she has developed with her spouse. She has also raised her family, and she is now physically involved in building homes for those who might never experience home ownership. She's not a corporate executive or a nuclear scientist. She is a volunteer. But the role she plays in our society is just as important as that of any CEO. I would hope that the 21st century woman will have gone full circle and will be able to accept being called a lady, and not think that because we want equal pay for equal work, we should shun the idea of being ladies. Back in the 70s, during the heat of the struggle to be treated as equals, we demanded that we be called women because the term lady was thought to be for social dilettantes. Thank heaven that period has passed. Have you noticed as you look among yourselves that women no longer wear ultra-mannish tailored clothing and conservative colors, that dress for success suits are now dress for success dresses, that hats are back and little white gloves and other accessories associated with being a lady are acceptable? My point is this: the choice is yours. You may still wish to dress in a more mannish fashion, but you don't have to in order to be taken seriously in the 21st century. Yes, we want equality, but we don't want to be miniature men. We are not the same. We are different. We should demand to be respected for that difference, and that difference is what makes us who we are. Heaven forbid that the 21st century finds us all living out the predictions made by English novelist and critic Aldous Huxley in his book, Brave New World. In Brave New World, personal relationships were not allowed. The system was unisex, and dreams and imagination were suppressed, since individualism was thought to be a crime against society. Women are very, very special human beings, and we have earned the right to be whatever and whomever we choose. When I look out over the horizon into the 21st century, I see that a woman shall be unencumbered by unspoken policies and outdated traditions. I can visualize a woman in the 21st century soaring like an eagle to places heretofore unexplored, as did our honoree, former Lieutenant Governor Thelma L. Stovall, who was the first woman to ever hold elective office from Jefferson County, Louisville, Kentucky. Or if she chooses, she can decide to live the life of a single woman and not have Aunt Minnie and Uncle Joe try to marry her off or make her feel uncomfortable with her choice. In the 21st century, a woman can shuttle the kids to the Boys or the Girl Scout meeting, or she can shuttle a spaceship to explore the universe. She can concoct a stew on a limited budget, or she can concoct a vaccine for a dreaded disease. She can design dresses, or she can design office buildings. She can entertain an attorney's motion for a continuance, or she can entertain the PTA. She can bring home the bacon, or she can stir it up in the pan. A woman's place in the 21st century is wherever she wants it to be. As I was writing this speech, I began to reflect on the women in my life who have had a direct impact on my life. First, there was my grandmother, who always had a twinkle in her eye and a high spirit, a sense of daring. She was a sharp dresser, and she was a true entertainer. Second, there is my mother, the 5-foot dynamo, who taught me values. She taught me respect. She taught me values. She taught me about etiquette and all of those other prim and proper things that every lady should know. Third, there were those women about whom I read. Amelia Earhart, who was born in 1897 and was presumed dead in 1937. This exciting woman blazed trails where no woman or man had been before. This woman's story filled me with a sense of adventure and a curiosity that challenges me even today to try and try and try again whatever it is that I want to do. Finally, Eleanor Roosevelt, who was not content just sitting still in the public's eye as the First Lady. She was constantly forging ahead, conquering new territory. She was an avid civil rights activist. She had a role in the formation and operation of the United Nations. She led many a fight on behalf of women's rights. I believe through her untiring efforts in national conservation, she gave me an awareness of the importance of protecting our environment so that we, as well as our children, have a future. I want to conclude by charging each of you to identify 3 women of any age and pledge to yourselves that you will play an important role in removing the blinders from their eyes in terms of their potential. And for those of you who have procrastinated moving forward in your careers with the following excuses: I'm too old, I have children, I'm married, I have another charge: get busy. Get busy, get busy. On Monday morning, I want you to begin putting your plans in place and charting your courses. When I decided to go back to school, I was all of the above. I was married, I had children, I thought I was too old. But I realized that time was not going to stand still until I found the perfect time to go back to school, which reminds me of a little story that I'd like to share. Just a little while ago, when I was the legal secretary and I got the first stirrings that I might want to become an attorney, I took my friend aside, her name is Sylvia, and said, I do most of the work, I do most of the research, and Mr. Goldman always asks my opinion before he sends documents out. I think that I would like to become a lawyer. Well, would you believe Sylvia laughed in my face. She said, are you crazy? What you better do is get back over to that typewriter and finish Mr. Goldman's brief. It's due out today at 4 o'clock. Well, that was just the kick in the pants that I needed. Talk about motivation. I certainly did go to college, and then I went to law school, and there were many, many days when I had to take my children with me. And every time I thought about taking a break or giving up, I could hear Sylvia saying, are you crazy? Yes, thanks to Sylvia, I got busy, and I charted my course. And now, Mr. Goldman appears before me. Thank you. So what I want is for each of you to get busy charting your courses towards your chosen place in the 21st century, wherever it might be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge. It's inspirational. We've come to a very special part of our program. Ms. Nell Horlander will pay special tribute to a woman who serves as an inspiration to us all, Thelma L. Stovall, for whom tonight's awards were named. Nell.
Thank you. Governor Wilkinson, distinguished persons at the head table, and to all of you out there who are certainly very distinguished. We thank you for coming tonight. Due to health reasons, Thelma is not able to be here with us in person, but she is here in spirit. There's a lot of you out there that know Thelma personally, and I've known her for a long, long time. As a long-time friend, labor union sister, and admirer of Thelma Stovall, it gives me great pleasure to highlight some of her accomplishments this evening. It's impossible to give all the accomplishments and all the things that Thelma's been involved in and the things that I've shared with her and many of you have been a part of. It would take us all evening, and we've already been hearing a lot of speeching already. Thelma is a native of Hart County, Kentucky. She is a Kentuckian. We'd like to claim her in Jefferson County, but she lived there most of her life, but she was born in Hart County. The daughter of Addie Mae and Samuel Dewey Hawkins. She was married to Lonnie Raymond Stovall for 50 years before his death a few years ago. They did make their home in Louisville. She lived in 3 different houses in Louisville. The last 25 or 30 years she lived on Valley Road in Louisville. She received her early education at Halleck Hall Junior High School, and she graduated from my alma mater, Louisville Girls High School. We don't have a Louisville Girls High School anymore. She later studied law at LaSalle Extension University in Chicago, and she also attended some at the University of Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky University. And many of you don't remember this, and I don't. This is before my day. But she attended the Mary Rose Kelly School in Louisville. I mentioned that to someone the other day and said, "Oh, you ought to remember that." Well, it was a little before my time, but it was a school. Our Kentucky Commission on Women unanimously decided to name the awards tonight the Thelma L. Stovall Awards. We were searching for an individual that Phyllis mentioned who had excelled in opening doors for other women and had made a significant contribution on behalf of women in our state. We all, around the table, immediately thought of Thelma. I first met Thelma in the late 40s at a union function. She was one of the first female officers of a labor union I had ever met, and she was speaking out on behalf of women. She served for 11 years as Secretary of Tobacco Workers Local 185 before entering her long political career. Someone said the other day, she's probably the only floor sweeper of a factory that became lieutenant governor of the state. We in the labor movement fondly refer to her as Madam Labor. On occasions, I've introduced Thelma, and I'm sorry that I threw all my speeches away because I wouldn't have had to gather up a few remarks yesterday afternoon trying to decide and recall some of the events and some of the things I thought of Thelma. And I was always proud to do it. Through our association over the years, I've loved and admired her. She's a down-to-earth person. I think it's befitting that the awards that we're given tonight are made of clay. Hart County has a lot of clay, and Thelma was really down to earth. Those that knew her know what those words mean. I found her to be tough, extremely tough, but extremely kind-hearted. She was stubborn, yes, very stubborn, and she always stuck to her guns. She tried to win you over to her point of view. She also listened to your point of view. However, she almost always wins you over, and her view became your view. Someone said, if he, yes he, was going to do battle, Thelma would be one person you would want to take with you. And I want to echo that. Thelma, while serving this state in various capacities for 31 years, has tried to help everyone. The legislation she introduced in the time she was in the House was for people. In doing some research on the Equal Pay Act several years ago, I ran across a card file, and it was a card file, it was 4 computers, and where Thelma introduced legislation to raise the minimum wage to 50 cents an hour in the state. That was for both men and women. Her doors were always truly open to all persons. She went out of her way to help everyone she could. As we've said before, she was elected state representative from the 38th Legislative District, and as our distinguished guest speaker said, she was the first woman in elective office from Jefferson County. Those of us from Jefferson County, and I know many of you are here, that seems strange. That was in 1950. We do have a few women around now, not only in Jefferson County, but all over, and it seems kind of strange that you'd think about the first elected person from Jefferson County. She was elected Secretary of State the first time in 1956, and State Treasurer the first time in 1960. And she served 3 4-year terms as Secretary of State and 2 4-year terms as State Treasurer. You know how we go from one to the other because you can't succeed yourself, Governor? Yes, I know. Which, by the way, I'm for a succession. She was elected and served as Lieutenant Governor from 1975 to 1979. And Governor John Y. Brown Jr. appointed her Commissioner of Labor, and she served in that capacity during 80 and 81. She was active in numerous civic and political organizations. Thelma was the first woman to be elected President of the Young Democrats of Kentucky. She served as National Recording Secretary of the Association of Secretaries of State back in '67. That sounds like a long time ago. And Secretary of the National Association of Secretaries in 1968 also. As chair of the Committee of Employment of the Governor's Commission on the Status of Women during the term of Governor Edward T. Breathitt. She's as a member of the Kentucky Commission on Women during the terms of Governor Ford, Governor Brown, and Governor Martha Lane Collins. And on August 25th, 1986, before Governor Wilkinson, Thelma was appointed as a member emeritus of the Kentucky Commission on Women by Governor Martha Lane Collins. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have been reappointed by this governor to the commission. This was the first and only member emeritus of the Kentucky Commission on Women. I remember one day, it was April 21st, 1964, that I got a call from Thelma late in the evening. I wasn't at home because I was in the hospital having my first baby, which was a girl. But Thelma left a message that Governor Breathitt signed the executive order establishing the Commission on Women, or the status. It was worded a little different than it is now, but the status of the Commission on Women, I believe, is the way it was. And I had, by that time, told her, well, that's good. By the time my daughter, Shelley, gets old enough to vote and gets old enough to be in politics or be a woman, maybe things will be different because of this in Kentucky. And I hope so. We can all claim Thelma because she belongs to almost all national and state women's organizations. She served on boards of many civic and charitable organizations. We, in the Coalition of Labor Union Women, are proud that she was a charter member of the Coalition of Labor Union Women and is a member of the Derby City chapter, and some of our Derby City people are here tonight. And we're very proud that Thelma is from the labor movement and is being honored here tonight. We in Kentucky are fortunate that we have a special person like Thelma Stovall, who has shared her talents and strength and has served as a model for all of us. I remember when she was in the late 40s, she ran in 1950 and won, but some of the politicians in this state, some well-known politicians, said to Thelma in my presence, Thelma, you're tough enough to take on the men's world, and you ought to run. And she thought, well, by golly, I am tough enough. You just don't know how tough. And so she ran, and she won, and that was the start of her career. One of the proud moments was on March the 20th of 1978 when Thelma, serving as acting governor, vetoed the resolution which intended to rescind Kentucky's 1972 ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. I serve as the vice chair of the Pro-ERA Alliance. Allie Hickson, our chair, cannot be here this evening, and she had written a special tribute to Thelma, which I would like to read. Allie, for some of you who may not know, she is in Russia. She'll be home, I think, tomorrow, but she's visiting her son, who's there on a Fulbright scholarship and is studying at Kazan State University, and she's visiting him while he is there. So that's the only reason. Since she's in Russia, she couldn't hardly make it tonight. But if she was in Greensburg, she'd be here. So I would like to read. It says, friends and supporters of Thelma Stovall will remember that no matter what the pomp and circumstance surrounding Thelma's life during her long political career, her most characteristic description of herself to any and all was, I'm just plain old Thelma Stovall. That simple credo for personal integrity guided her conduct in both her public and private life. Thus it was that she possessed the fortitude and conviction to meet heroically, without hesitation, her greatest challenge when, as acting governor in the absence of Governor Julian Carroll, on March 20th, 1978, she vetoed H.J.R. 20, a joint resolution passed by the Kentucky legislature to rescind Kentucky's 1972 ratification of the proposed Equal Rights Amendment. Much to the consternation of those opposed to the Equal Rights Amendment, this veto was upheld as valid by Kentucky Attorney General Robert F. Stevens. The ink was scarcely dry on the vetoed document when hundreds of congratulatory letters and telegrams began to pour into Thelma's office from all over the United States and even beyond its borders from Canada and Mexico. Concerning her action on this occasion, as quoted by the late Ed Ryan, Courier-Journal, Frankfurt Bureau Chief, Thelma said of her action, "The time comes when you've got to stand up for what you believe. This is what I worked for 8 years." The first campaign to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment expired on June 30th, 1982. But the next day, on July 1, the Kentucky Commission on Women, under the administration of Governor John Y. Brown, Jr., sponsored a statewide celebration to recognize the sacrifices, efforts, and hard work put into the 10-year ERA ratification campaign. Thelma Stovall was the guest of honor at that event, just as she is honored here today. Thelma Stovall remains the guiding light for all who continue to work to pass the ERA. When it returns to the Kentucky legislature in the coming decade, as it surely will, we're confident that the majority of Kentucky citizens who believe that a democracy requires constitutional equality for men and women will see Kentucky lifetime or beyond it. Thelma Stovall's indelible imprint will be upon that legal document. In closing, I'd like to say that the 5 women we are recognizing here tonight are the first recipients of the Thelma Stovall Award and exemplify the spirit of Thelma's fight for equality, her love and care and consideration for all people and for our great Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Nell. I would like to ask Nell to come back up and represent Thelma this evening, and Dorothy Jones has a presentation, a special presentation that she would like to give.
Good evening. I am very, very pleased to be here. First, because I don't have to talk about any issues, but to honor a shero from the labor movement. To Governor Wilkinson, thank you. And I've always wanted to say this to an African American sister, Your Honor. And to the other 5 sheroes, congratulations. For years, the statue of a male UAW worker has stood outside Solidarity House, UAW headquarters, as if to guard the union doors. Now the UAW is paying tribute to the women in its ranks in the form of the union seal, cast in bronze and mounted in the lobby of Solidarity House. The bronze medallion depicts 3 women workers in the center of the UAW seal, holding a tool of their trade, a wrench, a set of blueprints, and a secretary's notebook. The figures are representative of all women workers everywhere, says UAW Vice President Odessa Comer, who heads the union women's department. The 155-pound casting is the 6 months' work of a young sculptress, Bernadette Zakara of Hamtramck, Michigan. Another of her works is a bronze statue of a woman which she made for Vice President Odessa Comer. The medallion was commissioned by the International Executive Board to commemorate International Women's Year in response to suggestions made by delegates to a UAW Women's Conference at the Walter and May Reuther Family Education Center at Black Lake, Michigan. But during our 50th year celebration, we decided to honor 15 outstanding UAW women sheroes with a gold medallion. We decided after that to share this honor with other outstanding sheroes in the labor movement. So on behalf of UAW Vice President Odessa Comer and the entire International Executive Board, it is with great honor that we present this medallion to Thelma L. Stovall for her outstanding achievement.
Thank you very much. While it's beautiful and I'd like to keep it, I'll see that Thelma gets it.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to have our governor with us tonight. Governor, I want to thank you for joining us and giving us the opportunity to tell how much we appreciate your support of the Commission on Women in your efforts to improve the quality of life of Kentuckians all across the Commonwealth. We're proud of what the Commission has accomplished during the past 3.5 years, and we're proud to be a part of an administration that has accomplished so much for Kentucky. You have supported us in our efforts to pass important legislation, such as the marital rape bill which you signed, and by appointing outstanding women from throughout the Commonwealth to this commission board. As Governor Wilkinson knows quite well, the budget is the ultimate policy statement. Cabinet by cabinet, agency by agency, line item by line item, Governor Wilkinson's rare blend of sensitivity and common sense has directed important resources to areas of special significance to women and families. Much of that effort has gone unrecognized, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity to tell him that it is not unrecognized by the Commission on Women. Governor Wilkinson's priorities have directed new resources to areas of vital importance to women, such as welfare reform, health care, child support, increased economic and educational opportunities, and more. Of course, we're all proud of Mrs. Wilkinson's efforts in literacy as well. I believe that Governor Wilkinson has set a standard of accomplishments by which future administrations will be judged. He has opened doors of opportunity that are going to benefit Kentuckians for well into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me our friend and our governor, Wallace G. Wilkinson.
Thank you very much. How nice it is. I just want to start tonight by saying that I am smart enough to recognize when I'm overmatched and outclassed. And it will matter little what I say tonight because it won't get as much attention as the two that have preceded me. So in keeping with that, I will try to be brief because I've been honored with the opportunity tonight to present the awards, and there are a couple of them that I know personally, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to present them. So I should say, Judge Rankin and distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me tonight. I want to take another point of personal privilege, Phyllis, while I'm standing here and say that I have a special friend in the audience tonight. She is the finest superintendent of our public school systems, perhaps in this Commonwealth, and that's Randy Kimbrough. And I wanted to say that because I have never missed an opportunity to say that. And Randy, I know something of your accomplishments in this Commonwealth. Thanks you. Judge Rankin, thank you for a message of common sense, a solid message, and I enjoyed that. And yes, you are absolutely right. And thank you for bringing us that message. And I want to thank all of you tonight for your well wishes. You've been mighty kind, and I appreciate that. And Nell, what a nice tribute to Thelma. You are also right, and Thelma deserves all of it and more. Well, we've accomplished a great deal, of which I am proud, over the last 3.5 years. That is not, Senator, to say that it's all done, but we've made progress. And hopefully, some of it will be remembered. But I want one thing on the record for sure. No one ever tried any harder than I to put a woman in the governor's office. So whatever it is you may ever want to say about me, it cannot be that. And I want to go on. I want to commend the Commission for making the effort to recognize the contributions the women have made to this Commonwealth. We've long recognized that the strength of our Commonwealth is just as strong as our individuals, and is just as strong as the strength that is derived from the citizens of this Commonwealth. No more, no less. It's that simple. Not every citizen, however, has been properly recognized, Madam President, for her contributions to society over the years. By the time I was a teenager, I'd heard the story that Ginger Rogers did everything that Fred Astaire did, only she did it backwards and in high heels. I know you've heard that story a number of times. I'd heard it at an early age, and it came from my mother. My mother was a wonderful businesswoman. My father was a terrible businessman. He was a kind man, a good man, a trusting man, a considerate man. He ran a little country store. That's why when he died, he was broke, because everybody in the county owed him money, because they'd come in with any kind of old sad tale or story, and he'd give them credit, and they never paid. My mother, had my father listened to my mother, who did most of the work, while he was giving away most of the store, they would have had a better inventory, they would have made a better profit, and we would have lived much easier, certainly my mother would have, in those years. She was a wonderful business lady, and to the extent that I can ever claim any expertise in business, I must tell you tonight, it came from my mother. My pleasing personality came from my father, Senator. Well, part of the problem, I suppose, is that much of our history has been written by men, and I want to make a point there tonight too. Having made that observation, I fear that much of the political history of my administration will be written by the newspaper political analyst. And then I may be in the same shape as you have been in the past, having most of the history of this Commonwealth written by men. Only when every person has the opportunity to reach her potential can Kentucky reach its potential, Mr. President. We've worked hard over the past 4 years to build a Kentucky strong enough to support the dreams of every Kentuckian. Today, Kentucky guarantees at least 2 years of college for everyone who wants to attend, regardless of family income. A 16-year education guarantee starting with preschool for every disadvantaged child in this Commonwealth, all the way through 2 years of college, paid for by this Commonwealth for any individual whose income falls below basically the Pell Grant threshold. That program recognizes that more and more of those Kentuckians are what we like to refer to as non-traditional students, and specifically women and single mothers seeking to enter the job market for the first time. And I know you know, Mr. President, but for the rest of you, if you'll travel around this Commonwealth and visit the community colleges and look at the numbers of young women who've decided to go back and pursue their education at our community colleges, it is incredible. We've voluntarily expanded prenatal care, and I shall never forget, I was in my campaign in Cave City in 1987, I guess, and some of the political advisors that I had were a little upset with me because I made the statement there that at long last we are beginning to understand in this Commonwealth that economic development begins with prenatal care. Prenatal care, neonatal care, well-child programs, preschool programs, kindergarten programs, and an ungraded elementary school system through the first 3 or 4 grades, so that children who are a little less mature than some other children are not forever branded as slow learners. Because they don't have the proper start. And we voluntarily expanded Medicaid coverage, allowing thousands more Kentuckians with incomes above the poverty line to qualify for support under the Medicaid system. As a matter of fact, an additional 425,000 Kentuckians can now qualify for Medicaid support that are above the poverty line. Again, the population most affected by this action is female. Of those 425,000, I think we estimated that something like 400,000 of them were female. Single females, one parent, females. We dramatically increased funding and personnel in the Department of Human Resources for child support collections. Whether it worked or not, the deadbeat dad idea that Martha had was mine. I'm going to take credit for that one. I'm not going to take credit for some of the rest of them. But collections have almost doubled. Almost doubled. in the last 4 years. And we created a branch in CHR to encourage the development of smaller daycare facilities, Randy, and put $3 million in it for state-supported smaller daycare centers around the state, and we're now in the process of selecting the sites. The General Assembly didn't know that was in there. We kind of tucked that, not that they wouldn't have done it, but we had it tucked away in another little line item request. And some were surprised when we had $1.5 million to spend on new senior citizen centers around the state and $3 million or so on those smaller daycare facilities. But we're building them, and some who always claim to know everything, the know-it-alls, you heard that, are now wondering where the money came from. Well, we had a couple of little surprises like that, and we increased funding for neonatal and infant care and well child programs. And because of additional funding, the number of pregnant women who can receive local health department services has almost doubled this year from last. The Parent and Child Education Program has been recognized nationally for making educational opportunities more accessible to families and children. Here again, PACE has opened doors. It's a model for this nation, particularly for women with small children, for whom the lack of daycare has been a barrier to educational and employment opportunities. And I was proud to have the opportunity to sign the marital rape bill for which the commission worked so hard. And I'll never forget the day that Phyllis Alexander walked in my office and made the proposal to me. And I said, Phyllis, it's failed 2 or 3 times. I don't think it has an opportunity to pass this year. And in any case, I'd like you to tell me how you'd ever prove it. Well, I won't bore you tonight with the details of what she told me about how you go ahead to prove it. Was not a pleasant conversation for a few minutes, but Phyllis Alexander, I confess to you, changed my view on that particular piece of legislation. And it happened to be one piece of legislation, I believe, that if the governor had not supported and vetoed, the veto would have sustained and that legislation would not be law today. And legislation that extended insurance coverage for mammograms. And don't forget, we had the first female, the first chairwoman of the state Democratic Party in the history of this Commonwealth. And we appointed the first female to the circuit bench in Franklin County. Ever? And both of them have been outstanding. Well, tonight we're recognizing Kentuckians who have been guided not just by the wisdom and determination that they hold in abundance, but by a winning spirit. Women who recognized a need and who acted on it without hesitation when it wasn't popular to do so, and they did it with a quiet resolve and a determination that made it work. Kentucky is stronger for your efforts, ladies, and I suppose after hearing Judge Rankin's speech that it's all right now to say ladies. My congratulations to the Commission on Women and to Phyllis Alexander for making it possible to recognize the outstanding individuals here tonight, and for your constant vigilance on behalf of all women in Kentucky. Excuse me, I guess we're not ready for those yet. I knew somehow or other I'd mess it up before it was over.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. I'll be back.
Thank you, Governor. I wanted to do something right now, just very quickly, and we are almost there. I'm honored to present to you all of the nominees for the 1991 Kentucky Women of the Year Awards. I want to read everyone who was nominated. And as I read the names in alphabetical order, I ask that each nominee please stand and be recognized. Sherry Anderson, Carolyn Brott, who couldn't be with us this evening, Ruth Oates Butwell, Jean Calvert, Harriet Cartmel, Georgia Chaffee, Governor Martha Lane Collins, who couldn't be with us this evening, Dr. Carol Crow-Carrico, Mary Alley Garnett Cundiff, Nettie Davis, Wilma Irwin, and I don't think she could come this evening. You may sit down if you'd like. Sally Ann Fuchs, who could not be with us this evening, Representative Pat Frybert, Cecile Garman, who could not be with us, Vicki Saylor Garrison, who could not be with us, and Sister Marita Greenwell, who could not be here. Dr. Twyla Hanna, Maria Henson, Dr. Allie Hickson, who's not here this evening, Marilyn Holman, Nell Horlander, Dr. Louise Hutchins, Teresa Isaac, Romanza Johnson, who couldn't be with us, and Ann Joseph, who could not be here, Juanita Carrack, Randy Kimbrough, Chris Cubali, Eleanor Langham, Karen Malott, Mary Lou Marjan, Melissa Mershon, Sharon Minrath, who couldn't be with us, Sissy Musselman, Lucy Jane Nunnally Nelson, Catherine Peden, Judge Olga Sapp Pierce, Senator Georgia Davis Powers, Donna Quick, Carolyn Quire, Jacqueline Reed, Penny Sanders, Carolyn Self, Frankie Shepard, Jane Stevenson, Linda Sullivan, who couldn't be here this evening, Virginia Taylor, Mary Ann Tobin, who couldn't be here this evening, Mary T. Wakefield, Edwina Walker, Marcia Weinstein, Angela Wilkins, Mae Williams, Joyce Ann Mason Winburn, Carol Woodyard, Virginia B. Wright. Let's please give these exceptional women applause. I also want to acknowledge an extraordinary human being and friend of the Commission on Women, Judge Judy West of Fort Thomas, who died of cancer in February of this year. She will be missed. I now want to quickly tell you how the 5 winners of the Thelma Stovall Awards were selected. The judges were from New York and one from Louisiana and are listed under the acknowledgments section of your program. 57 nominations were submitted by groups and then sent to the New York City Commission on the Status of Women for judging. The forms were identified by assigned letters only, not names. The evaluation form used a point system of 1, 2, and 3, with 3 being the highest. The 6 judges were asked to consider whether the contributions were long-lasting or permanent, whether they helped further the cause of the women's movement, whether they opened doors for Kentucky women and or benefited a few or many women. The nominees also received points for having been recognized or received awards for work in women's activities. Additional consideration was given for accomplishments in the following areas: professional, church, civic, education, and women's health issues. The 6 judges, whose names you can read, were instructed to read all the nomination forms prior to actual scoring and without consulting with the other judges. Upon completion of the individual scoring, the judges met collectively to determine the top 5. Results of the 5 Thelma L. Stovall Award winners were then sent to the Kentucky Commission on Women office. We're ready to reveal those results. I'd like to ask Governor Wilkinson to come up and read those results. Sarah Wilkins of the Commission on Women's staff will bring the awards, and he'll read those one at a time. And if you, when your name is called, if you will come up here, we'd like to present those awards. And I'll move this.
Thank you, Phyllis. I'm glad I was on cue this time. Recipient 1, I want you to know I have hugged and told this lady on more than one occasion, I might add, that I love her. She's an extremely intelligent lady. She voted for me. And she is a delight. Today we take the right to vote for granted. In her early years, this recipient only dreamed of it. She is described as having been a suffragist, someone who strongly believed in extending political suffrage to women. She was an outspoken advocate for giving women the right to vote and insisted that it be the law. While still in her 20s, she saw her dream become a reality. However, she didn't stop there. Leadership roles just seemed to come naturally to her. The eldest of 6 children, she learned early on to take charge and motivated others to be the best that they could be. She loved to teach and taught school for 15 years. 6 of those years were spent teaching girls at Ormsby Children's Home in Jefferson County. She taught Sunday school for more than 50 years, most often leading the ladies' Bible class. She helped establish and served as president of the Women's Missionary Society of Adair and Greene counties. In the community, she was seen as someone who would get involved and get things done. She worked hard to organize the Cooperative Extension Service in Adair County, as well as the first Homemakers Club and the Adair County Public Library. She spent a lifetime, most of her 98 years, opening doors for women. The Kentucky Commission on Women is pleased and proud, as am I, to present this Thelma L. Stovall Award to Ms. Mary Allie Garnett Gundiff.
This is very, very unexpected. I didn't think I would ever get anything. I didn't deserve it. I never tried to push myself. Never ran for office and things. Because I just tried to do my best as an old country school teacher, you know, and so on and so forth. And I thank the judges for reading my resume and deciding I was worthy. And I hope that if any of you ever get to be my age, you do as well as I.
99, ladies and gentlemen, in October. And I suspect, Miss Allie, that there are a few of us that will do as well as you have. Recipient number 2. Her list of accomplishments date back to the 1940s and continue today. She's been involved in politics, in women's issues, entrepreneurial ventures, and community work. She went to Washington, D.C. to lobby for the Equal Rights Amendment and to gain funds for spouse abuse centers. She lobbied alongside former Lieutenant Governor Thelma Stovall in Frankfurt for passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. In 1990, both the Courier-Journal and the Morehead News featured her in stories which focused on her community and political involvements. She's encouraged women to run for political office. She has registered voters, performed volunteer work, and owned a very popular restaurant. This nominee has opened many doors for women through work with displaced homemakers, the Girl Scouts, Christian Women's Fellowship, the Kentucky and Morehead Business and Professional Women's Clubs, and as a charter member of the Rowan County Democrat Women's Club. She has served since 1984 as an advisory committee member for the Social Insurance Division of the Kentucky Cabinet for Human Resources. Today she continues her work as a representative for an insurance company. She's been characterized as a warm and caring person, one who has been known to say, when the call comes for help, just wait till I put my shoes on. 80 years young. The word retirement is not in her vocabulary. She is the mother of 3 children and has 5 grandchildren. Ms. May Williams. Please. Please accept this award from the Kentucky Commission on Women in deep appreciations for your many contributions to Kentucky women.
You've hugged me a few times, too.
Yes, I have. Ms. May says I've hugged her a few times, too, George, and she's right. More than once.
Thank you very much. I'm so proud of this. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I have worked hard for women, and I'll tell you, even I've got a granddaughter that is working harder than I ever did. She's a sophomore in college, and so I've got a household of people that are working for women. Yes, I brought them up right.
Oh, my goodness. I wish I had time to tell the stories. I was campaigning, and I asked Miss May, I said, would you be for me for governor, Miss May? And she said, sit down here, young man, let me talk to you. Wow. She did feed me, though. Recipient 3. What do you say about a person who was nominated by 3 organizations? A political pioneer. This individual was the first black and first woman to ever be elected to the Kentucky Senate. Now, just a minute, Georgia, I'm not through yet. During her tenure, she chaired the Health and Welfare Committee and the Labor and Industry Committee. She served on the Elections and Constitutional Amendments Committee the Cities Committee, and as secretary to the Senate Democratic Caucus. She was one of the organizers of Allied Organizations for Civil Rights, whose goal was the passage of statewide public accommodations and fair employment laws. Allied Organizations sponsored the 1964 March on Frankfurt, which drew a crowd of 25,000 to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Jackie Robinson speak. She was also an organizer of the Kentucky Christian Leadership Conference in 1965. She successfully petitioned the Council on Higher Education, Mr. President, to return Kentucky State University as a freestanding four-year state-supported institution. She headed a coalition of 29 organizations which worked for the defeat of the referendum to reorganize Jefferson County government in Louisville. Was a delegate to the Democratic National Conventions in 1968 and in 1988, and was state chairperson for the Reverend Jesse Jackson in 1984 and again in 1988. During her 20-year tenure as state senator, she sponsored numerous bills and actively participated in the passage of laws regarding equal rights, displaced homemakers, and discrimination. And I had the pleasure of working with her the first 2 years of my administration. Senator Georgia Davis Powers, please accept this very special award.
Governor, honorable Rankins, members of the dais, this is indeed a surprise. I thought when the people in New York had to make the decision, I knew that they would know nothing about me. So I was just sitting back comfortably waiting to see everybody else receive their award. But I am highly honored because I probably am the only one in here who worked in the Senate with Thelma Stovall when she was lieutenant governor and presided over the Senate. Thelma was a hard worker. As a matter of fact, in 1972, I think I sponsored the ERA resolution in the Senate. And in 1976, when Thelma Stovall vetoed the rescission, I was one of the very few in the Senate who voted against the rescission. I'm just delighted because Thelma was a great trailblazer. And I'm happy that I had the opportunity to know her and to know the type of person she was. And she was a down-to-earth person. You could go to Thelma anytime. You could call her anytime. She would talk to you anytime. I never had any problem working with Thelma Stovall, and I don't know of anyone who did, really. So this is a great honor for me, and I thank you, Kentucky Commission on Women, for this honor and for honoring Thelma Stovall, a great Kentucky woman. Thank you very much. I must say this is a beautiful, beautiful, unique award. I have nothing like it in my home, so I'm very happy to receive it.
Watch your step there now. Okay, recipient 4. This nominee is a mother of 4 who's devoted more than 50 years of her life to furthering family planning in eastern Kentucky. She began her work as a physician at a time, according to a story in the Lexington Herald-Leader, when mountain women literally were dying from having too many children too quickly. She frequently has been honored for her efforts to combat infant mortality and to protect the health of mothers. Her energy has been described as boundless, and I can personally attest to that. Her vision is keen, her courage is admirable, her spirit is indomitable, and her mission to the mountains is still thriving. She has served as a staff pediatrician at a local hospital, as a volunteer for the County Board of Health and the Mountain Maternal Health League. For 28 years, she served as First Lady of a Kentucky college. She is the recipient of honorary doctorates from Berea College, Transylvania University, and Morehead State University. In 1970, responding to a request from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, she began operating a mobile family planning unit in eastern Kentucky. She continues to work on family planning today. The Commission on Women is very pleased to present this award to Dr. Louise G. Hutchins.
Well, I've had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, let me tell you, a lot of us are better off because you did it.
Well,
And
you
I
know, there
congratulate you very much.
women are having 2 children now instead of 20, and that's quite an achievement.
It is quite an achievement. May we have your picture? Thank you so much. Oh, Dr. Hutchins said, now, you know, we've made progress. Women are now having 2 children instead of 20. All right, recipient 5, and then I suppose my work is done for tonight. What do I get paid for this, Phyllis? My dinner. Okay, that's good. That's better than I've been doing lately. Recipient 5. During the 10 years this nominee has been director, the agency she heads has grown from a small grassroots organization with 5 employees and a budget of $80,000 to a comprehensive service agency for women and children with 34 full-time staff, 100 volunteers, a budget of $1 million, 2 residential shelter houses and walk-in centers in Maysville, Newport, Covington, Florence, and Williamstown. For more than 2 decades, she's been a staunch advocate of laws ensuring personal safety and freedom from abuse for women and children. She's lobbied the General Assembly and testified on behalf of spouse abuse victims before legislative committees everywhere. She was instrumental in developing a state plan for establishing spouse abuse centers in each of the area development districts across this Commonwealth. She's been a board member and an officer of the Kentucky Domestic Violence Association since 1982. She's a board member of the Kentucky Rape Crisis Centers and was appointed to the Governor's Institute for Children and the Protective Services Advisory Committee. She served as a domestic relations coordinator for legal aid and was a college teacher in her native England. In addition, she is a student, and she's the mother of 3. It is an honor this evening for the Kentucky Commission on Women to recognize for her hard work and dedication to women, Ms. Edwina Walker.
If I don't sound like a Kentuckian, please accept that in the heart I am one. This is just an incredible honor to be with so many wonderful women. And at this time, if I may take this liberty, I'd like to ask those persons from our KDVA and our rape crisis centers to stand with me, because I feel in the work that we have done, it's been a company of women who cared. May I acknowledge them? And I would like to also add that when I came to this wonderful Commonwealth, the first woman I heard about was Thelma and what she had done. And I felt this was incredible and wonderful, and this is an incredible honor for me. Thank you so much, Governor. I better not drop it.
Congratulations, Edwina. Thank you for all you do, and it is considerable. Yes, Doctor.
I could never have done it without my nurse driver, Mrs. Pat Jones, who is here tonight. For 16 years has driven me and assisted me in all of the events.
Well, how nice. Could you hear that back there? Okay, I would have to repeat it. How nice. Thank you, Pat Jones. Well, that concludes my responsibilities for the evening, and I'll simply, Almost? Well, I'll be back.
I would like to ask the recipients of tonight's awards to please wait around a few minutes after this is finished, and we would like to take some group pictures. So I don't want to forget to say that. And we just have a few important acknowledgments to make and a few gifts, and I'd like for the governor to present those gifts as I tell something about these folks. And would they please come up to the podium to receive something from us. I'd like to ask our artist, Linda Baybinger, who made these beautiful statues, come up. In addition to designing and making from hand the awards this evening, Linda has designed posters for the Governor's EEO Conference, which is held annually, and she is the designer of our wonderful Kentucky Commission on Women logo. And you can read about Linda in your program. 1991 graduate of Henry County High School designed the winning entry. Jennifer will attend the University of Louisville next year, and you may also read about her in your program. Jennifer? In appreciation of her wonderful contribution of song tonight, we have a gift for our soloist, Tanya Tucker. Tanya Triplett. Reverend Jerry Shepherd, will you please come and accept this award from the Kentucky Commission on Women?
There's always a payback somewhere down the line. Thank you.
The Honorable Wallace Wilkinson will make the next presentation to Miss Dorothy Jones. Yes, would you please come up? Excuse me.
I'm a Kentucky colonel.
It's a Kentucky colonelship.
Now, it isn't likely to work, Ms. Jones, I know that, but since you are a Kentucky colonel, you're supposed to take some direction from the governor.
Last but not least, we have a presentation to make to Judge Clarice Rankin. We are so glad, and we appreciate your speech, Judge. We're glad she came to Kentucky and helped in making this evening a success. This is also a Kentucky colonelship, but we're not through yet.
Well, thank you very much.
We also have a special something for the judge that we want to present. It is a silver tray with the inscription, "With sincere appreciation to Judge Clarice Mitchell Rankin, United States Immigration Judge, Houston, Texas, from the Kentucky Commission on Women, June 8, 1991.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here. We've enjoyed it very much. The Kentucky hospitality has been something we'll never, ever forget. My husband and I both thank you. And I want to extend special thanks to Dr. and Mrs. Wolf for your gracious hospitality. Thank you. This has been a moving experience for us. Thank you.
One more time. Somebody else? I'd like to ask Commission member, Kentucky Commission on Women member Virginia Cofield to come up for a special presentation. Virginia.
Good evening. I'm delighted tonight to make this presentation to you, Judge Clarice Rankin, from the Frankfurt Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. We love you. We praise you. We wish you all the luck and continued success.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much.
I would like to say special thanks to the Banquet Planning Committee, Phyllis Florman, Olga Flynn, Celeste Lanier, Nell Horlander, Betty Roth, and Mary Wolfe. And I'd also like to thank the other two staff members from the Kentucky Commission on Women, Sarah Wilkins and Ann Trimble, who were, without their help, we couldn't have pulled all this together. Governor, we're through.
Am I finished now?
Yes, sir.
Phyllis?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I wanted to be sure this time. And I wanted to say, you honor me and you're mighty nice to me to invite me tonight, and I thank you very much.
Our heartfelt congratulations to our 5 Thelma Stovall Award recipients and all the wonderful women who were nominated for these awards. One quick thing, if you would look under the handle of your chair, if you have a sticker, you get the plant on your table. And at this point, while you're looking, I'd like to ask Jerry Shepard to come up and conclude our program with prayer.
It's a good lead-in for a prayer. I invite you to stand for a closing prayer. Let us bow our heads, please. The God who has blessed us all with life now goes with us as we leave this place and return to our homes. May we be blessed by the divine presence with us. May we celebrate the divine gifts within us and all around us. And may we know the divine peace of God within us, now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you and good night. And the recipients, please come up for a picture.